Cyberpunk 2077 is a game of two sides. On one side is the narrative, the characters, the voice acting, story, and world building. The atmosphere the game builds is incredible and the world is well realized. Night City is huge, feels pretty alive, it's fun and rewarding to explore, and has a lot of character and interesting places to see. Personally, I think the writing is basically masterpiece quality stuff. I actually care about the characters and want to see more of the world, get involved in more conversations, and see the resolution to all these quest chains. On the other side, though, is a game that feels unfinished, raw. Some of the game mechanics feel as if they were meant for a previous version of the game, and not all of them had the chance to be fixed up and integrated with the current state of it. Like the game has gone through several iterations, and each time more stuff had to be changed, shored up for the new ideas, and they just didn't have the time to do it for everything. It's clearly a game that could have used another 6 to 12 months in the oven, because as much fun as I've had with it, it most definitely feels unfinished. So let's start with the good. The world they've created is compelling and super fun to explore. Night City is an interesting place, and the environments have a lot of variety. There's some really neat stuff just laying around for you to find. In that regard, it's like The Witcher 3. A clear amount of passion has gone into making the world an engrossing place full of stuff to stumble upon. But the real crowning aspect for me are the characters. Everyone is so well written that it's easy to get invested. Even the characters that I was determined to dislike when I first met them ended up as complex and memorable, and another similarity to Witcher 3 comes in the quality of the side quests. The side quests are genuinely the most fun and memorable aspects of the game for me. They're fantastically varied and written in ways that really grab me, pull me in, and won't let me go. There's nothing quite like just chilling in someone's car outside of a coffee shop, the rain tapping on the windshield, talking to them about their next step, planning the quest to come. It doesn't even have to be an action-packed quest to pull you in. Just having dinner with the character and their family after helping to solve their problems is compelling enough to be memorable all the way through. Particular note goes to a quest chain involving a cop trying to do the right thing in a corrupt police force hunting a child-grooming kidnapper. It's an incredible questline. The emails between the groomer and his victims make your skin crawl to read because they're so believable, and it handles the heaviest subject matter really well, even showing you the past of the kidnapper, how they got this way, and giving you several choices along the way regarding how the whole thing plays out. It's a side quest that I'm gonna remember for a long time, like the Bloody Baron quest of Witcher 3, and you don't hear that about RPG side quests all that often. The main quest line is just as interesting and well written. Sometimes the side quests actually open up new dialogue options in other missions, including the main quest, in ways you might not expect, helping them feel integrated and not just a list of separate busy work. Meeting new characters feels rewarding, and they're all written well enough to make that feeling of collecting connections and having this ever-expanding list of new characters joining you immerse you in the world really well. Combat is pretty nice too, more impactful than I thought it would be. The gun designs are all pretty cool, from weapons that can ricochet around the place, and with the right implant you can even guide the bounces, to chargeable weapons and smart weapons with homing projectiles. The sound assets for them are meaty and satisfying. The first person animations are great, with every weapon type having like 3 or 4 reload animations that'll randomly cycle through to add some variety. But the real star of the combat for me, though, is the hacking. I think it's probably the most fun hacking system I've seen in a game. Just pull up your visor view and start hacking stuff in real time. You can see through cameras for stealthy approaches, turn turrets to your side, spread a contagion like virus through enemy ranks, remotely deal lethal or non-lethal damage to them, operate and drop things remotely, and so much more. There's just so much possibility in the hacking system that it seriously adds a ton to the combat, the stealth, and even non-lethal approaches. Of course, being in a cyberpunk universe, you can augment yourself in all sorts of fun ways too, replacing your eyes for better scanning, adding blades, monofilament whips, and rockets to your arms, getting cloaking devices and subdermal armor, and my favorite ones are the leg augments, including the ability to hover and even a double jump that adds a lot to the exploration. Each augment opens up tons more options of how to deal with problems, combat and otherwise, and they're even moddable with extra effects, damage type changes, extra features to improve their capabilities in some way. Unfortunately, you can't completely deck yourself out in vast amounts of cosmetically altering cyberware. I'd like to see even more craziness available, considering many of the NPCs have some neat stuff that I'd like to try. It almost feels like it's holding back a little in terms of what you can really do to your character, augmentations-wise. RPG-wise, it's most similar to games where you play a set character with set goals and a set history, where your choices are about refining their personality and the way they handle situations. So it's in the Deus Ex, Mass Effect, and fittingly The Witcher mold of things. You have choices as to how Geralt, Shepard, and Adam Jensen act, how they handle what comes their way, but they're still specific characters with a certain personality and goals, not a completely blank slate. And that's also the case with the main character here. V is a specific character and they have goals in mind, but the details of their personality and how they interact with the characters and world around them are what you decide. There are skills that raise as you use them, kind of Elder Scrolls style, and skill trees to put points into to improve yourself in various ways, and the attributes are right out of the tabletop game with similar effects here. However, even though I have a lot of good things to say and I've genuinely enjoyed my time with the game, I have to mention the other side of everything, the bugs, the generally unfinished nature of many parts of it. For one, some of the game mechanics don't mesh well together and feel more like an afterthought or like something that was half implemented and never had the time to be fully balanced or integrated in a way that forms a cohesive whole. You can easily complete the whole game and not level many of the skills very high because they take forever to raise sometimes, some of them feeling very unbalanced in how slowly they gain XP. It's easy to beat the game entirely and still have a single-digit athletic skill, for example, because it only raises in very specific ways, takes a long time, and actually gets harder to raise if you invest points into it first, which makes no sense, and shows that unfinished feeling I was talking about. It's clear that some of these skills didn't have the same thought as others and make very little impact on the game overall. Another example of this feeling is the crafting, a system that the game basically hides from you, doesn't tutorialize at all, and has an entire skill tree that can be completely safely ignored because it basically has no impact at all, feeling like a sort of vestigial aspect just sort of hanging off the side of the game that never had the time to be better implemented or more completely developed into the rest of the game as a key element. Then there are the bugs. So many bugs. We expect open world games to have bugs. It's not unacceptable if one has any at all. It's the frequency and variety of them that's the real problem. NPCs holding invisible weapons and items, handing you things you can't see until your character touches them, T-posing NPCs, animations bugging out, sounds for things like gunshots, vehicles, and footsteps just not playing for a while sometimes, a certain window that blasts you like 200 meters back into the Badlands when you try to climb through it. The list goes on. I had a door out of an early quest building simply not open, so I couldn't actually complete the mission. My NPC companion that I was escorting could just walk right through the door as if it wasn't there, but it completely stopped me. I actually had to reload a save 3 times before that door finally opened and I could complete the mission. There are often moments during mission briefings where you're given a chip that has maps and intel on it, stuff that pops up in front of your eyes and shows you aspects of the upcoming mission as the characters talk through what's going to happen. It's really neat, but for some reason, the last 2 big missions I've had that do this, all the info that's supposed to pop up on screen never did. So I was left with a blank screen of nothing as characters talked about things and pointed to stuff that I couldn't see the whole time. I've been fairly lucky and only had that one instance of a progress breaking bug that reloading enough times fixed, but if lucky is considered still having this many bugs and glitches so often, then there's a problem. There's also the things that are just obviously weird by their absence and show that unfinished feeling I was talking about better than anything else, like the fact that you can't change your character at all after the initial character creation is done in the beginning of the game. This is a world where if you've got $5,000 to spare, you can walk into a doctor and have an entire titanium skeleton installed, but you can't go get a haircut or paint your nails. It's the omission of blazingly obvious stuff like that, stuff that fits the Cyberpunk theme even, that makes it clear the game just wasn't done yet. The AI is another obvious problem, especially the traffic and driving AI, of which there is almost none, notably. Cars just sort of blindly drive, and they teleport and rubber band badly in races. The police AI is too simplistic, basically just teleporting police next to you the second a crime is reported. These are all aspects of the game that feel they could have been great, but they haven't had the time to be 100% properly implemented yet, so they're just open mechanics hanging loosely off the side, not tied up into the whole experience yet. Overall, Cyberpunk is a game that I've had an absolute blast with, some excellent narratives and memorable characters that have been some of the best I've experienced in the game in a very long time. But it feels like for every aspect I praise, I have to put a qualifier on the end that there's a mirrored aspect of the game that's just broken or undercooked. I've steered people away from games that were less buggy than this, like Wolcen, which was buggy, yes, but this is even more so. So I'd feel like a giant hypocrite if I didn't do the same thing here. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much fun I've personally had, it's just too buggy, too underdone right now for me to feel comfortable in saying people should just go drop $60 on this, when it may not even work properly for them. And if it does, they aren't going to have a bug-free experience by any means. You know, go and pay full price for this. Maybe it'll even work for you. That's not a very good sales pitch. I have no doubt that CD Projekt is going to do what they did with all the Witcher games previously and work hard to get it into a better state. They already have plans for major patches in January and February, showing they clearly knew it wasn't ready, and the whining of the shareholders to release it for the holiday season really botched their plans. I'll definitely be playing more, and I'll also be glad to make an update video next year after those patches drop and show you how much they've fixed and changed so far. You know, knowing what they did with The Witcher 3 and even The Witcher 2 to an extent, knowing how kind of buggy and unfinished certain aspects of it was and how much better it got later, I have faith that they'll be doing the same thing here, to be honest. So expect more videos on this in the future as it hopefully gets shored up to be the game that it deserves to be. This is a game and a story that deserves to be experienced in its best state, and right now, it just isn't there yet. So thanks for watching. I hope this was useful to people. I'm gonna get back to Night City and fight through some bugs because it's really got me now, and hopefully we'll have some better news in a few months' time. I'll see you guys next time.